Jessica Murphy, LMFT. So she is a queer neurodivergent therapist in Texas, specializing in trauma, relationships, and inclusive care. She supports individuals and couples navigating complex experiences like family of origin trauma, sexual assault, and abandonment. A proud Capella alum, Jess credits her mentors for encouraging her to be her full authentic self in the therapy room. Her practice blends humor, directness, and compassion, and always centers around human connection. Outside of work, Jess loves cooking, gaming, hiking, snuggling animals, and crushing VR workouts. She's thrilled to give back to the Capella community and celebrate the place that helped her grow. So thank you so much to Jessica for taking the time to talk today with this group about brains that love differently. I'll go ahead and let you take it from here and pin you to the top.
All right, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you for that introduction, Darby. I was like, oh, that's me? What a nerd. Well, thank you guys so much for showing up and being here. And a special thanks to Roxanne Bayman, Dr. Bayman, for bringing me in, and honestly for making a really, really big impact on my life as a student and now as a professional. We all know we're here for Dr. B, right? Give me a moment. Let me share my screen. Okay. Is that looking good for everyone? Can y'all see?
You might want to press the big present button.
Oh, the banner is in the way.
Would it be on the view slideshow, on slideshow, if you hit slideshow?
Yes.
I don't know. That's what
go ahead and hit slideshow at the top to the left of view. And then go ahead and press from beginning.
There you go.
You know, I do technology, I promise. Only been working from home since 2019. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to say also that any questions, any comments that you might have, if they're super quick, something I can answer right away and move on, like feel free, just unmute yourself. I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me, but if it takes some explaining to do, I'll say, let's wait till the end. Just so I don't get sidetracked, because if you ask me questions about cats or dogs, I'm going to go into my special interest and completely forget what we're talking about. So that is just kind of an example of how I show up as a neurodivergent therapist, not just in my network with my friends and my professional life. I'm really open about the way that my brain works, and having that kind of like self-affirming talk and creating that affirming space has just taken so much anxiety and pressure off of myself and my clients as well. So I know that we are all super smart people here. I know that we all have amazing education and credentials, but today I'm not going to spend a bunch of time talking about the DSM or throwing out clinical jargon. I want to help you understand, more about yourself if you are a neurodivergent therapist or client, and understand your clients better as well. So we can prevent things like shutting down when it happens in the session, asking too many broad, open-ended questions that cause a client to like just buffer for 10 minutes, right? How to change up your style of question and understand your client's brains a little better, and maybe yours too. Yeah, that's basically what I just said. So there we go. Okay. So one thing that I did not ever expect to do as a professional, I knew that I was gonna work with people who had, brains that work differently to some degree. I knew where I wanted to go with that. I knew for sure that I wanted to work with families and for sure couples, because I think relationships are so important. I mean, LMFT, right? But I didn't expect to get to where I'm at now, where I'm really working with queer neurodivergent couples. It's not really something that I intended to do, but naturally it's been just going in that direction. Um, so a lot of times what will happen is that I'll have clients that maybe are both some form or flavor of neurospicy but aren't aware of it, or maybe one neurotypical, one neurodivergent, and so there's like mismatched energy. Uh, they don't really understand, if someone is trying to communicate in a certain way because they're wanting a task to get done, um, and the other person is perceiving it as, oh, you're just stating a fact, it causes a lot of arguments and fights. Maybe one person wants to plan a bunch of like dates and outings and get-togethers, and the other person is like, that sounds horrible, I'm gonna be overstimulated, and they don't know how to express that to their partner, so they might just say something like, nah, I want to do that. And so the partner might like perceive that as rejection. So this is all about uh, brains that work differently, what that looks like in attachments and connections, and how couples can really be more successful, and how using more affirming language in the clinical setting, more human language, less nuance, not so much clinical jargon, just using the language that someone really relates to can be helpful for you and your clients. So I'll give a few clinical tools and affirming approaches towards the end. I'll talk a little bit about ACT therapy and DBT and how that can help with emotion regulation and acceptance. And, ACT therapy is really straightforward. So you definitely can benefit from learning a few ACT therapy tools for neurodivergent people. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, right? What is neurodivergence? What a lot of people don't understand is that neurodivergence is not just for people who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Neurodivergence simply means a brain that works differently, something you might find with people who suffer from CPTSD, ADHD, of course, autism spectrum disorder, to name a few. And that can make things a little tricky when you're trying to figure out medication management for your clients. And so what I have found that psychologists or psychiatrists that are really in the know of how to support their clients, they will first try to minimize the symptoms of like anxiety due to overstimulation and sensory issues and depression. And then they'll kind of like separate those symptoms from like ADHD, and if that is in need of something else like a stimulant or something else that will help them. So a lot of people in the neurospicy world do not like certain terms for different reasons. Some people might feel that neurodivergent is saying that their brain is broken or wrong, and that's fair. That's fair. If that's what they believe in and what they feel, then find a word that does make them feel affirmed. I use the word neurospicy to describe myself. because I feel like it's very inclusive, especially when you're not really sure where you land on the spectrum of neurodivergence, right? And you're just like, like me, it's just it's easier. It doesn't make my brain break. However, some of my clients or other people in the community feel like it's very infantilizing and that we are kind of poking fun or minimizing of how debilitating their symptoms can be. That's also totally fair. So you want to make sure that you ask questions like, do you prefer autism spectrum disorder, autistic? Some people even prefer like the ones that kind of poke fun of it. They'll say themselves, I've got autism, right? Some people really hate that. Some people think that it feels really good and it makes them smile and it makes them feel affirmed. We just don't want to make any assumptions. Okay, I think this would be a good time to just pause kind of early on and take maybe one or two short questions. Anyone?
You have one question from Susie. She says, I love spicy, but checking in with your clients.
I stopped texting because then I could just say it faster.
Go for it.
Are you having trouble right now? Like, I know that our state has a registry and has had a mandated registry for autism. Have you come across some of the like political spectrum being unsafe for any of your clients to get full diagnoses, to even personally identify with autism instead of just having, spicy and
So far, no, I haven't come across that in particular. But I know that it does happen. I know that what I have come across in that specific area right now has been more with the trans community. But what I usually tell my clients is whether or not you need an official diagnosis is entirely up to you for whatever reason. But let's explore the like the benefits, like what you would really get out of it. Let's explore how much that might cost for you. Let's explore other alternatives like a psychiatrist and a therapist who are willing to talk about symptoms rather than labels, and treat the symptoms, rather than labels, just to make treatment and accessibility more accessible. Yeah, fine, we'll say it. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Someone has their hand up.
Yes, India, go ahead.
Yeah, so I like, and if you can't hear me, I say if you don't, sorry. But I like that you are open with being like queer and neurodivergent. I'm also both of those things. And I think I've really struggled with coming to terms with if I want to say those to people because I don't want to limit my range of people that I work with. So how do you manage that?
I like that question. So let's see how to answer that without sounding like a freaking rebel. On one hand, there's a part of me that says, I'm going to be me and I'm not going to sacrifice authenticity for acceptance. And if clients who truly know me don't want the type of therapist that I am, then I think that's great because they have all the information that they need. I spend lots of time talking to people for free on the phone, helping them, find their right therapist. early in the morning, I get a prospective client call and I'm like, no, I'm not busy. What's up? Eating cheese toast. And if I don't match with them for whatever reason, I'm like, well, you know what? I have like 4 other great therapists I can refer you to. So if the question is about me being afraid that I will lose certain clients because they may not like the things that I stand for or my approach, then I guess my response to that would be, then that's a good thing, because then they can meet up with the therapist that's going to be a better fit for them. Did I answer that right? Did that answer your question?
Yes, I think more so, I think it's great to weed out the people that, wouldn't align with you, but at the same time, not being limited to, I don't want to work primarily with queer neurodivergent people, right? So I don't want people to look at my page and think, oh, she only takes people that have autism, or, because people have limiting views when they see these things. So I want to,
Mhm.
I'm trying to find that balance of, I love being authentic, I want to be authentic, but I don't want to limit myself because I want to work with a variety of people.
Yeah, got you. Okay, so I think another thing that really draws me to people is being a woman, being empowering, being a geek, being straightforward, being kink and sex positive, right? Like I just put all of me out there, and people will grab onto what they're going to grab onto, and it's got to be up to you to be brave and share yourself if that's what you want. Right. I know that there's another question. I'm going to move on for a little bit and then we'll come back, but like, please keep your question.
Okay, go ahead, Keisha. Oh, sorry, or put it in the chat and I'll hold it for later.
I'm sorry if you see me drinking water and dabbing my eyes. South Texas allergies or something else. So let's talk about attachments. You can still have a very secure attachment to someone while also needing time to prepare for a difficult discussion and to recover afterwards. Sometimes in neurotypical relationships, secure attachments might look like, hey, I have a problem. And the other person might go, oh, goodness, what is your problem? I'm exaggerating, right? I'm exaggerating, like 2 very securely attached neurotypical people that are having a back and forth. Not to poke fun at neurotypical people, but it can look like that. It can look like, okay, well, this is my problem. Tell me more about your problem. And so they're kind of just going back and forth. They're probably making eye contact, sitting across from each other, right? And in a neurodivergent couple who are very securely attached, it might say something like, or it might look something like, hey, I have a problem. And their partner says, oh, or you do. Or it's just very, oh, that's an interesting fact that you just shared with me, right? And they may need a moment to go, oh, are you wanting to have a conversation with me, right? They may not understand what their partner is saying when they come up to them and say, I have a problem. In fact, that can be a very overwhelming thing for a neurodivergent person because their brain might go, so for example, I have ADHD. If I were to receive a text from someone or my partner were to say to me, hey, I have a problem, I would try 20 different scenarios in 3 seconds of how to respond, what might possibly be going on. Let me analyze this in philosophy and literature. My brain might go all over the place. I might even think of a funny joke to say. 3 hours later, I haven't responded to the text message. I've become so overwhelmed that I need some tea and a blanket, and on some days I might just be done for the day. depending on how I'm feeling. So this can happen when people when their symptoms are very, very high, very overwhelmed, seemingly easy questions become really, really difficult. So, sorry, I was looking at my slide to remember another point I wanted to bring up. In neurodivergent relationships, sometimes when there are serious things that may need to be discussed, it might be more like we're playing a video game together and we're having a talk. We've scheduled this time to have this conversation so that we could both prepare ourselves emotionally. There's a game plan for afterwards, and there's a game plan for during the conversation. So this is something that I'll do often with my clients. Hey, you need to have that talk about, what's going to happen with such and such. You're going to put it on your calendar. You both know it's there. While you have the conversation, you're going to play a board game, Jenga, Tetris, whatever it is. Hey, you might even write the questions on the Jenga blocks, right? This gives a sensory experience. It allows them to have serious conversations without feeling overwhelmed, and they can really connect in this way. So it's really the opposite of the what we think of having a serious conversation. You need to be quiet, phones off, eye contact. If you're playing a game or looking at your phone, it's considered disrespectful. So it just doesn't really always look that way in neurodivergent relationships. Okay, before I move on to rejection sensitivity, the person who had a question a minute ago, what was your question?
Hi, Jess. Thank you for doing this, first of all. Really enjoying it already. And I typed it out actually to the host, but my question is kind of a two-part question. You can answer just one part because I know we're time crunched. But my question, Jess, was as therapists in training that know that we are neurodivergent, whether it's ADHD, autism, the whole spectrum, I have found in the last year how difficult it has been. I think honestly, internship has opened my eyes so much to my neurodivergence because it's such an overstimulating part of life. And it's incredibly important to me. So any dysfunction of mine that has come up has become very apparent to me, especially in those authoritative roles of past supervisors or faculty. And Dr. Raymond is so lovely. I'm so grateful. I'm not surprised at all that she's connected to you being here, because Dr. Bayman was huge in just being an affirming supervisor and residency person in general. But that has been a very rare experience. And I feel very protective of other people that are going to come into this program or have already been in this program and aren't getting that. I don't even know if it's the program or if it's just the industry at large or the entire world. I don't know how we should be advocating for each other and for our clients while we are students. It feels like that access is really, really difficult. And it feels like it can be rejected a lot easier and quicker. So I just wanted to ask from your perspective, just anything that you would suggest that you feel like would be heard more, or if it's just yeah, girl, I agree. That's a fair answer too.
Yes. Yes, yeah, girl. Yes, I hear you. But also, I would say, don't sleep on the social media groups that are out there. There's really affirming Facebook groups that welcome unlicensed clinicians or new students. There's neurodivergent affirming, I don't know, whatever. I can send you the information later, because I think it's helpful for you as an upcoming with therapists or for anyone who's a student to see other people, and I'll say such as myself, who are further along, who
Right.
have that confidence, and because I got to see some of that too when I was a student. Yes, very, very rare, especially here in South Texas,
Mhm.
right? I will also say, not to call you out, but
You can call me out.
some of the things you're saying sound like some like internalized ableism.
Mm.
And I would say definitely you need a place to vent about that, and you need a place to have some
Absolutely.
like good reflection, and affirming language will be super, super helpful.
No, I totally agree, Jess. And I think that I appreciate you saying that, because I think that that's exactly what it feels like in the environment of university and supervision sites that are not educated in it. It's like we have so much to do, and then also understand your own neurodivergence. And then you see neurodivergence in your clients. And it's like, if your supervision site is not preparing you for that, or if school is not preparing you for that, it feels like you have to get your own degree in understanding neurodivergence while treating that and working with that, even if you have it in yourself, understanding it there first. So it's seems like this,
because you don't have the pieces of paper on your wall yet, you don't feel confident in advocating for yourself.
Exactly. It feels like once we're graduated and we're there, only then we'll be able to speak about it. And I hate that. I don't want that to be the case.
No.
Yeah.
Get real comfortable with your symptoms, get real comfortable with your diagnosis, whether it's official or not, and go into the room like, hey, the lights are really bright in here. Like, is there something we can do? If not, I'm gonna wear sunglasses.
Mhm.
If that music is really, really loud, and if I listen to it for 5 more seconds, I will cry. I'm going to wear headphones. Get really, really comfortable with that, and until you are, find you a good therapist or a good mentor that's well versed in the field that can teach you how to do that, because I did, and it really helped.
Thank you, Jess. That's super helpful.
Awesome. Good. Okay. Rejection sensitivity, rejection sensitive dysphoria. Usually people just call it rejection sensitivity. It's real. I mean, I think that this is exactly something that you were describing, just now. We get used to hearing as neurodivergent people all through our lives, you're so sensitive. Why are you crying? You're talking so much, right? Because they don't understand what might be happening. They think that we are just weird or too emotional. Can I just say, there's no such thing as being too sensitive or too emotional. If someone doesn't want to understand or hold space for your feelings, for your emotions, then that's on them. And they can say that. I don't have the bandwidth for this right now. Is there another way I can support you? But for them to say you are too sensitive, you're too emotional, is like full stop. No. For anyone who has ever heard this throughout your life, I'm so sorry that people treated you that way, because your sensitivity, your emotions, your ability to empathize with other people is not too much. It is freaking amazing. It is a superpower. But you've also got to learn how to protect yourself. I think I learned a lot of that from Dr. B. How to save your own energy, how to be able to hold space for severe traumas and empathize with people without, transference and counter transference. And, it's okay to break down sometimes with your clients, as long as it's still about them. So I think a lot of that comes with time and experience, but more than anything, it comes from understanding yourself. So sometimes in relationships with neurodivergent couples, they will, like one will engage in an argument and the other person might walk away, might shut down, might even try to like do other things to just get out of the stimulation of it all. Now, this doesn't mean that we are excusing people for stonewalling or for doing the unhealthy things, for shutting down because they're trying to avoid accountability. That's different. Okay. So you've got to be able to distinguish the difference. So I'll ask questions like, hey, then and there, I noticed when Susie brought up to you that she has been trying to tell you that you have been playing your video games, 50 times more than you've been paying attention to her. You looked at the floor. I asked you a question and you weren't able to respond. Can I ask what the pause is for? So rather than trying to correct the pause, correct the silence, I just am curious about what they needed in that moment. So a lot of buffering, delayed processing, and even emotional hangovers the next day, when after a couple has been having arguments, even if they resolved it and they feel good, they might feel really, really drained the next day. My partner is also neurodivergent, but he is more autism spectrum, and he will sometimes take 2 days to 2 weeks to process things that we discuss. But in the years that I've known him, I've learned how his beautiful brain works, and I wait in patience because I know when he is done, he's thought about it thoroughly. He knows exactly what he wants to say. He's going to pick the time that's right for him. And so there's trust there, understanding each other's brains and giving space. So just more about neurodivergent breakdowns. Can you take out the trash? Yes. And then we just completely don't do it. You asked me if I could take out the trash, right? We're not trying to be smartasses. We just didn't understand the assignment, okay? If anyone has another question about communication breakdown or literal versus inferred language, let me know.
There's one question from a little bit earlier from Darlene. She said she appreciated what you said earlier to one of the other members, and she said, I had a client with autism contact me recently about couples therapy. I don't know how to start. Do you have any good suggestions or maybe resources?
Please bring that up to me at the end because I think I might answer a little bit of that.
Perfect. I'll save it for the end.
Thank you. So this is more about communication, processing delays and scripting language, info dumping. If you don't know what info dumping is, it is the best way to tell that your neurodivergent client, partner, mother, friend, whoever feels really, really good about you. It feels really, really comfortable with you for the most part, right? We will come to you and we will talk for 5 hours about something we just read in a magazine. I went to CVS to pick up my prescription the other day, and I picked up this magazine about understanding your dog's brain. And I gotta say, I read more of that than I have my entire Psychology Today subscription since like 2017. It's a thing. I think I spent the next 3 days info dumping on my partner, poor guy. So I was like, oh, and then, and then you've got to understand this other thing. While it sometimes annoys him because he is the opposite and he needs to hyper focus on things, he knows it's because I'm happy. He just lets it happen, poor guy. And people mistake misattunement for apathy, right? What I was talking about earlier. Someone might say, I had a hard day at work, and the person might respond with like, that's an interesting fact you just shared. It's not that they don't care because they aren't responding right away. They just need a little time to buffer. They might be thinking of like, what is the best way to respond to this? What do they need right now? Also, they look really hot in their work uniform. Should I tell them that I made waffles this morning first or after? Right? Those are the kind of things that happen. You just get bombarded. So open-ended things like this can also make your clients' brains break. If you ask them, hey, how are things going? They might go, what? What kind of a question is that? Right? Where other, neurotypical people might go, how are things going? Let me dish. And they're ready. I might ask questions just to get the activation going that are more specific. Hey, what's your favorite enemy right now? Hey, I remembered in our last session, you mentioned this very specific thing about your mom. I want to know if that very specific thing also did happen this week. And if it did, what was that like for you? How did you deal with it? The more specific, the better, instead of leaving it broad and open. But also, check in with your clients and see what happens for them. It took me a long time to understand. I thought that my clients were just unhappy being in session with me when I was a young therapist, and I would actually get kind of frustrated because I would keep asking questions, not knowing that if someone doesn't respond and you keep asking questions, you might literally be causing them to have an anxiety attack because they're still trying to figure out the answer to the first questions 6 questions down the line. Mismatched pacing and energy needs. This is a big one. This happens to lots of couples. Sometimes when people are overwhelmed, they might become like very hyper and they're overstimulated. So the overstimulation is kind of coming out in nervous anxious movement. It might be hyperverbal, and and then if the other person is in overstimulated mode in a different way, that fatigue, that exhaustion, those mismatched energies can cause divorces, man. This will cause couples to be like, I give up, don't know what to do, I'm so frustrated. But it's so much easier to give them the tools to work through those mismatched energies than they might think. Maybe we can use code words. We can say something like, hey, I can't talk right now, but I can sit with you while you play your video. I can't talk right now, but I can do this, or they have a specific blanket that they wear when they are shutting down so that the partner knows, oh, when Sally has her blanket on, I know what's happening. I know I'm not going to expect her to verbal, but maybe I can just go sit next to her and bring over a bowl of popcorn. Yes, please. Snacks are always yes. Right, so we experience things like burnouts and shutdowns. So this is when we really want to just be aware of different things like spoon theory, demand avoidance. Right, if there is something that is just overwhelming, a person might experience demand avoidance and kind of shut down. We don't want to use words like depressed or lazy or avoidant, right? Those kinds of words give a negative stigma and are not accurate to what is happening. Someone might be experiencing a shutdown and maybe they just need a change of scenery, a change of music, or maybe they do just need a nap. So feed forward. Feed forward is different from feedback because it's a more strength-based alternative. This helps people to feel less of the rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria, because you're giving them actionable things that they can do. It gives encouragement. It says, you know, let's say, if the argument is you always leave that towel on the floor, I hate it when you leave the towel on the floor. Instead, a feed forward thing might be like, hey, I bought this really cool like little wizard guy that has a wand that we can put our towels on. Now when you get out of the shower, you can hang it on this little wizard guy, and also if you press a button, he makes a noise, right? I'm just using a random example, but you want to give more things that a person can actually do rather than telling them what they shouldn't be doing, because that might cause them to feel like you are rejecting them, that they are just wrong, and they don't really know how to fix that, because what you are saying is not very solution focused. Okay. Okay, we're over on time. Let me pause here and take a question if anyone has any questions.
We have 4 that might be good for right at the end.
Okay, sounds good. Unmasking in relationships. This was something that I actually had to learn and experience. So not to be confused with, going, in and out of the honeymoon phase and things get different. This is actually more specific to neurodivergent couples. So because of our society and school and all of the different things that we have to go through in our lives that are not designed to help people like us with different thinking brains, we learn to mask in a way to fit in, to be accepted, to not be rejected. And this shows up even in relationships. We might try to laugh a whole lot more. It makes us seem likable and fun, and we're not just this completely weird person with the mask. No, we're so neurotypical. We might not show when we are overstimulated. We might not say when we just need, we just need to not talk, or we just need some space to recover. So we mask that in relationships. In long-term relationships, when the mask comes off, there can be a bit of uncomfortableness because things are changing, and it's not necessarily that the couple has fallen out of love or they are becoming complacent. Actually, it's more about the mask coming down. And so now this person clearly trusts you, loves you, and they're feeling okay that you won't reject them if they drop the mask. Because let me tell you, if you don't know what it's like to mask, especially as a therapist, it's exhausting. So most of the time I choose not to. Just kind of be myself. But I own my own private practice, so I have that, just a humble flex. Having your own private practice can be helpful in that way. You can do things the way that you want to do it, if that's what you need. Long story short, this happened in my own relationship. I showed him this slide. He's okay. My partner's name is Art. And in the beginning of our relationship, he used to do a lot of what I call automated responses because I perceived it as not special. He would say things like, he always had a specific response to anything that I would ask. If I sent him a pretty picture or me in a dress or a new necklace or whatever, he would always have the same response. And I would always have conversations with him about it, and he didn't quite understand what I was trying to say. Well, years later, learning more about our different brains, going through diagnoses, research, yada, 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 we realized when he and I both read scripting together, his response was, I'm done with this conversation, right? He felt very called out. And I think there was kind of like see, it wasn't that it wasn't special, it's just that's a type of masking, right? That he had to give a certain kind of response and he had to do it right away because for whatever reason, right? Yes, and we can talk about novelty seeking and how that can be really difficult with couples where one has ADHD and the other one is an ASD diagnosis. So you want to rethink love languages, right? Love languages can be unmasking. Love languages can be info dumping. Love languages can be parallel play. I know that my partner and I love to sit in the living room together with our dogs and our cat, and he's playing Cyberpunk and I'm playing like 30 games at the same time on my phone and on my Switch, right? Hyper focus, the opposite of hyper focus. Oh, this is just a case vignette for you. I was talking about this earlier, therapist tools for indie affirming where ACT metaphors are really good because it's shifting to more values-based living. It's not very nuanced and it helps. It helps to direct the client more to that that feed forward direction, right? These are the things that are actually going to help make the changes rather than focusing on what's going wrong, focusing on what can change. And of course, education and co-regulation are super helpful. Even body doubling is really good. If I have clients that they might send me a text in the session, they might say something like, hey, I'm really overwhelmed. I want to have this session, but I don't really know what to say. I'll say, bet, here are the options. Option 1, keep your camera off and we will just talk like if it were a phone call. Option 2, turn your camera and your audio off and we can do some chatting after I check in and make sure that you're safe and at home, right? And so we'll do some text-based stuff. Option 3, keep your camera on, keep your volume on, turn on whatever music you like, and you and I are going to color together. So body doubling, co-regulation, if that's what they need to bring themselves out of an anxiety or a panic attack, I'm happy to do that with them. Usually by the end, when they're feeling a little better and regulated, we can maybe talk about a few things for a few minutes. Resources for you. And yes, that brings us to the end. And if you have questions already ready to go and you want to ask those, or if you'd rather pick a reflective prompt from the list, be my guest.
So we do have a couple questions that were saved throughout. So Darlene's question, I had a client with autism contact me about couples therapy. I don't know how to start. Any suggestions?
Okay, so is that a couple that you really want to work with?
Darlene?
So I've worked with individuals with special needs and autism and the new term neurodivergent. I've worked with that population in the past, but never in this capacity as an MFT. So the 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 man came, he contacted me saying that his girlfriend wasn't listening to him. And so he was kind of like all up in arms and he was flustered and everything. So the only thing I did was I talked to him like I would if he was one of my students. And so I said, well, you just have to, be calm, ask her nicely. Maybe you have to show her how to keep her phone on and keep it charged and things like that, because that was his main premise. And so he didn't contact me for about a couple of days. And then I said, well, I'll set up a Zoom call because they weren't in the same city. So I said, I can set up a Zoom call and we can get her on and we can, walk her through how to keep her phone on and, give you better communication skills. And so he was like, okay, but he never logged on for the call. So every now and then he'll text me, she's still doing it. She's still doing it. So I just wanted to know what I could say to help him and her for that matter.
So first of all, I want to say that if he's sending you messages like that, you definitely want to say, I would love to help address this with the two of you in a couples therapy session. He sounds really frustrated by what's happening. I would definitely ask more questions. What else is she doing that is making you feel like she doesn't listen to you? I would ask questions about, like, is that a theme that you're seeing throughout the relationship? I would ask her, is there something that he's doing or saying, something about his tone or body language that is causing you to not feel safe to respond? Is there something that you're worried about happening if you respond in a certain kind of way? If she says no, I might ask some exploring questions. Do you think it would be helpful if he had a certain grievance or he wanted to talk to you about a certain thing, if he gave you time? Like if maybe you scheduled it like on a Thursday at 5, y'all told me you get out of work early on Thursdays, right? Okay. Thursday at 5, you kind of schedule that conversation. And after the conversation, y'all can plan some time either to connect by watching a show, or you can plan some separate time so that you can both process what was talked about. I might ask, make sure it's not just an isolated event and just get more of an idea of the pattern of what's happening in their relationship.
Okay, yeah. That sounds great. Pretty much sounds like what I do with my couples, with quote unquote the normal couples.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. That sounds good. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. And the thing is, like when you brought up the term buffering, I said, oh, so that may be what's going on. So she may be just processing what he's trying to convey to her. So, yes. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
absolutely. And maybe what could be happening is that when she's taking time to buffer, he could be experiencing rejection sensitivity.
Mhm.
She's not responding to me. I feel rejected, and I'm going to react in all of these ways.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, guys. I just want to make sure that if anyone does need to leave, I do my quick announcements, and I don't know if you have time for the last 3 questions, Jess, but I'll happily answer if you do have a couple more minutes. But just to tell everyone, thank you so much to our speaker, Jess, today. You were amazing. I think it's gotten some great conversation going. If you want that hour, again, please just put your name in the chat before you go. And do in your core elms, put it for Dr. Bayman within 48 hours of today so that she can get you that hour. And then please know that we have our next DK events coming up just next week. There's another Spill the Tea as well as a Stuck Case Clinic. So please, thank you guys so much for all the great questions. And then Jess, if you do have time for 3 more, I will happily go ahead and have those. I just wanted to allow other people to leave if they needed to for clients.
Stay.
Okay.
Thank
So
you very much.
Oh, thank you, Debbie.
Okay.
So Jane had a question of any good books for parents dealing with their neurodivergent adult children. I have a family trying to reconcile with their adult child who was recently diagnosed with autism and ADHD.
Can't think of any good specific books off the top of my head, probably because I don't read a whole lot of like actual books themselves, because I also have dyslexia. But in the slide where it says resources, I tried to give links that took you not just to one resource, but multiple resources. So you should be able to find something good there. And if not, please feel free to get my contact info, and I have another resource list that I can send you.
Perfect.
Oh, what might be good, I just thought, I think it's also on the resource. There's a fun YouTube channel called like How to ADHD, and I think that neurotypical people could definitely watch that show and learn so much in 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that is our answer for Jane. So Carly asked, if you think you have a neurodivergent client and they're open to diagnosis, what is the next step? Do they need to see a psychiatrist? How would you suggest taking that journey next?
So I would first have them do something basic like what's it called? The ASRV or something like that. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's a super basic self-assessment questionnaire that they can fill out that will let you know basically should they look into getting further support for their diagnosis. I have also created a quick self-assessment. It's a 2-part self-assessment. I'm very clear about it not being a diagnosis, but it actually asks questions in a way that is made for neurodivergent people, because even the assessments that we have now really confuse a lot of my clients. So I just came up with something on my own just to see if like, yeah, if it swims like a fish, it might be a fish or not. And then, yeah, definitely if they want a formal diagnosis, they would need to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. It is a very expensive evaluation. It can last for hours. It's very thorough. I'm not knocking it, even though it sounds that way. But some people just may not have those resources or funding. But if they want it, great. Some insurances will cover for it. They can do that. Just have open conversation about it. But if they do the self-assessment and they're okay with just understanding their own symptoms, then just go from there and give them tips on how to use like timers to getting things done, read what books to read, and stuff like that. Being aware of their sensory sensitivities and communication style.
Perfect. And then Angela asks, this is the last one I have written, so then after that we could take hands. She said, I'm curious, what if we see these attributes in teens and adults, and yet the psych eval came back as negative for any neurodivergent diagnosis?
Oh, yeah, that can happen. I would say there can be for a few reasons. The most common one is that the professional, the psychiatrist, psychologist, whoever's giving the diagnosis, just may not be as well versed, or may not be their population of choice, or for whatever reason. Also, the client could be masking in front of the professional. Something that I will do is I'll do a symptom assessment summary, and I will say, this client has been my client for this many days. These are all the things I've noticed. You should also know that they mask. So if they are smiling, if they're making eye contact, if they're nodding their head, those are not typical symptoms that the client actually has. They might, right? So I know it's a lot, but those are just the things that I do. Just a lot of my clients have had bad experiences with that. So I just try to give the professional more information, because my client may not be aware of how much they are masking, may not even remember their symptoms. So sometimes they need more support there. Yes, did that answer the question?
Yeah, so it sounds like maybe sign an ROI, get some communication going across team members, and see how we can best help them as a team. So thank you for that, Jess. Zisha, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Yes, last question, Jess, even though I have like 100. I was gonna ask, I know you mentioned resources for therapists that are neurodivergent on Facebook. I don't have Facebook, but I'm totally open to getting it. So I didn't know if you had that on like your website, or if how that would be shared. That was my first one. And then the second one was any resources you had moving forward once we graduate, Jess, in opening up your own practice as a neurodivergent therapist, and kind of building your practice, even if you're not specializing, working specifically with neurodivergent clients. Just any feedback you have, whether it is that or just being a neurodivergent therapist and opening up your own practice, because I know that may be very niche. But I was curious if you had anything on that.
Yes. How can I put it? I built my practice from the dirt. Like I do everything myself. And some people say that's a trauma response, and that's totally true. But that sounds like a good let's get together outside of the presentation on a Zoom talk and talk about it, because that's my brain's wanting to answer in 30 different
loaded question.
Right
yeah
it
was a loaded question.
But feel free to get my information. It's on the handout. I'll send you all the link and reach out.
Okay,
Thank you, Zisha. Go ahead, Skylar, and we'll probably cut that out for the last question, just so everyone has time to get to what they got to get to.
Okay. The words are hard.
I feel that.
So it was more about, I guess, the YouTube channel, because I've looked at that before and I did pull it up. I can't find the recent videos. Like the closest one I see is from like 10 months ago. So I don't know if I'm looking at the wrong thing.
So Skylar, for all transparency, Delta Kappa, the previous person who was uploading that, lost the password. I have currently all this month been trying to gain it back for you guys. So
oh no,
I promise, I'm finally through like all the hoops of getting approved to show I'm not spam. So hopefully within the next week or two, I personally we'll be putting all that as well as on our Facebook group. So no, Skylar, that I promise they're coming. We were having some issues from the previous social media, and it wasn't their fault. There was just some miscommunication down the line. So I promise they're coming. Because
Okay,
it's on my
awesome.
to-do list.
And then, Jess, how do we contact you? For some reason, my brain deleted this information, even though I need it.
Did I put it on the first one? I didn't. Okay. Well, the name of my practice is Beyond Boundaries Counseling, RGV, or bbcrgv.com. And you can, there's a way to message me through there. Also, my cell phone number, email, social media, all of that is
Okay.
really public information. If
I'm
you just
pretty
type in
sure
my
I've
full
seen your
name.
website.
Nice. Good to know.
Yeah.
I figured out SEOs. Yeah, you feel free to message me through there. I know it looks like I have this big company, but really you're looking at it, it's just me and my cat Gunter.
Oh, I love that.
Well, perfect. Then just so we make sure we give everyone else some time, thank you so much, Jess, for this wonderful presentation. I know I had a couple of people in the chat requesting a copy of the PowerPoint, obviously, right? That is yours to do with. I did let everyone know that we will try to get that YouTube uploaded as soon as possible. But if for any reason you're comfortable sharing, please let me know and I'll be happy to either summarize it and get them like the main quotes without taking your content or your really cool photos or any version of that. But thank you guys so much for sticking around. If anyone wants to stay and talk about DK for the last 5 minutes, please let me know. We're definitely looking for some board members and committee members. So if you like what we do or you want to see it get better or you want us to help us upload to YouTube to add more to the team, please let me know and I'll stay for about 5 more minutes. But thank you so much, Jess. You did an amazing presentation. We can't wait to have you back.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Jess.